Like being poor sucks, but being poor together makes it a lot better, right? Because you're in it together, and it doesn't discount the fact that you don't have, but then you start to enjoy the things that you do have, and that is each other. And so we laughed, we enjoyed ourselves, we had something that sometimes you don't have when you have too much, and that is the ability to focus on the human beings around you.
But you know, I thought
they just tell me sometimes to go and hide under the bed. In my world, I go, I have the coolest parents in the world. Sometimes I go hide, and then I come out. And then only when I'm writing the book does my grandmother tell me, oh yes, we hid you under the bed, Trevor. We hid you because the police would come, and if they found you, then they would take you away. So we had to hide you. And I'm like, how did I not know this my entire life? And my grand goes, you never asked.
Really?
Evidence of my parents' crime. So here's the fundamental problem with racism, is that it's an idea that is defeated over and over again by people contradicting what people have been told. And that is, black and white cannot mix, colors cannot mix. And when people mix, they prove that it can happen. They prove that you can have beautiful children. They prove that love can cross color boundaries. And so now a person like me is a product that creates a murky world. So the police would take a child like me. My skin tone is called colored in South Africa. And so colored would be removed into a colored community. So I couldn't be the child of a black woman, couldn't be the child of a black person, because by the law I was superior to a black person. But I couldn't be with a white parent either, because by the law, the white person was superior to me. And so you would have to keep each person in their group to maintain a system that truthfully doesn't make sense.
So how do you figure out?
And you know, in telling my story and writing this book, I never thought it was about my mom. I think most of us believe that we're the heroes of our story.
Yeah.
And in writing the story, I realized that I was my mother's punk-ass sidekick. I genuinely, I didn't set out to write it about my mother at all. I was telling my story. And it's funny how you sit down and then you come to realize the people in your life who have shaped you and who play a big role in who you are. And I can't deny that my mother was that person for me, who stood up at a time when many people were afraid to stand up, when a country was being punished for standing up. And she said, no, as a woman and as a black person, I will live the way I believe I'm allowed to live, whether you tell me I can or not. And she did that. And so because of that, she's the example that I lived my life by without realizing the consequences. And that for me, and this is one of the hardest conversations to have with people, is like, oftentimes we get into conversations, especially today, where white people will say, not all, but white people will have a conversation where they say, I don't understand why a black person feels so oppressed. We've lived the same lives, we've grown up the same way. Yes, I understand maybe your parents were oppressed, but now you're free. So what's the issue? And then what you come to realize is, apart from traces of systematic or systemic oppression that still exist, there is also one underlying issue, and that is the devastation that impacted your generational family. Like those are things that you take for granted. Even if you say, well, my grandfather wasn't rich, I got nothing from him. Yeah, but you got opportunity, you got knowledge, you got ideas, you got things that many black families were robbed of. And so
I think that's so important.
In New York and in New Jersey, and I was looking at the effects. And after the hurricane hit, people were devastated. Businesses were demolished. And the government stepped in and said, we will give you subsidies, we will give you low interest loans, we will help you get back on your feet. Because the people understood that devastation needed to be corrected. And so if that has happened to a people, if there has been a hurricane of racism that has obliterated people, wouldn't you then need to come back in and say, we will help you get back on your feet? Because you have lost everything.
We recognize that what,
and that's something my mother learned the hard way, is she had to go on a journey where she left the family because she realized she needed to build before she could give back.
Yeah.
And sometimes as human beings, we exist in a space, and this is beyond race, where we have people who need from us and we haven't built for ourselves yet. And you cannot give what you do not have. And so sometimes you have to build for yourself.
Trevor's gonna preach now.
Because in my world, I had no chance, but I come from a world where there was no chance. So every chance I've taken is the one that's impossible. I always say to people, why do the possible thing? It's boring if you succeed. Like, do the impossible thing, because if you don't get it right, people like you weren't going to get it right, and if you do, you did the impossible. And so for me, it was like, yeah, I'll throw my name in, and if I don't get the Daily Show, I was never meant to get the Daily Show. But if I get it, this is something that I would have never dreamed of doing. And so they called me. I was doing shows in Dubai, and I got a phone call, and they said, hey, we've looked through everyone, we've gone through all our decisions. Would you like to be the host of the Daily Show? And if I wasn't sitting down, I would have fallen over. I would have fainted it was mind-blowing. And I couldn't get alcohol because I was in Dubai. Like, I didn't know. I was just like, I'm so happy. And, you know, it was